What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. It is match preview day, a massive game to really see, a really good barometer of where we're at with the game this weekend. Obviously, we beat Burnley 3-0 in the opening day of the season. Now it's time to test our wits against Manchester City at the Etihad. It don't get much more difficult than that. But look, we're going to get into all the match day stuff in a bit. But first and foremost, how are we doing today, Sim?
Starting to get over it. I think we're all getting over it now. All right, it's been a difficult 48 hours as a Tottenham fan, one of the hardest in recent weeks for sure. So, got to dust ourselves off, and we just got to hope and pray that there's some more stuff to come. The transfer market, I still think there's a lot to be excited about with Frank and the team and what he can do. He's already shown so far as Tottenham manager, he can make a lot of what he's got. So,
I tell you what, I'm completely over it. I really am completely over it. Like, I think Frank put it perfectly. Look, if someone don't want to be here, then we don't want him here. And at the end of the day, Arsenal was always his first choice. He's an Arsenal fan, so he can do one. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. But we just got to hope we get someone in. That's the thing. As much as we can all be over it, and I think we're all over it, we still need a player. It doesn't have to be equivalent quality, but we need a good player to come in and fix that creativity issue. And, and if we don't get that person in, then there's going to be a lot of anger and frustration, regardless of what Eze has decided to do or not. So that is what the focus got to be on now.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, right at this moment in time, it hurt for a little bit. But now I couldn't give two shits where Eze has gone, to be honest. And,
he's going to flop anyway.
He's won the last trophy of his career at Crystal Palace, so good luck to him. Look, we've got some transfer tidbits to bring to you today. And first and foremost, let's talk about Savinho once again. And Fabrizio Romano said yesterday that Tottenham...
Wait, let me guess what he said. Did he say that Spurs are still in for Savinho, and if City sells Savinho, they'll go for Rodrigo?
Similar, not too far away. Not too far away, but he says Tottenham have made new contacts with Man City over a possible move for Savinho, but Man City are still blocking any move for Savinho. But Spurs are pushing as Frank is in love with Savinho. I mean, does he not get fed up of saying the same thing over and over again?
Honestly, it's getting so boring, man. I can't even see a Romano Savinho update without rolling my eyes anymore. Like, I can't get excited about it. Look, something might happen, and I agree with you. Like, I think if there's anything likely to happen, it's probably going to be after the game on the weekend. So I think we have to sit here, maybe be a bit patient and see if any movement's going to happen with this deal. As I've said repeatedly, I'm not really convinced anything will happen. I can't really sit here and say I'm confident by the end of the window Savinho is going to be a Tottenham player, because I don't truly believe it. But we're still in there. We're still getting encouragement from Savinho on his side, so that's good. And maybe there'll be some compromise on either our side in terms of how much we pay, or on City's side in terms of how much we're demanding. I think there's going to have to be a compromise somewhere to get this deal done. But Romano is just saying the same thing every day, over and over again.
It's been like 2 weeks.
There's been no movement. There's been no movement. There's been no movement in this deal whatsoever ever since the first literally the first update is the same as the update today. So, yeah, I'm not going to get excited until I'm seeing something a bit more.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that, and I don't have too much confidence that the deal is going to get done. However, I've always maintained the kind of opinion that if a deal is going to get done for Savinho, it would have been after this game that's going to be played out this weekend. Now we're here on the eve of the game, 12:30 tomorrow. Let's see what dominoes could potentially fall after the game. I'm not holding my breath, but let's just be hopeful that something can happen. Next up, we're going to talk about Magnus Akliouche of Monaco. David Heitner says that Tottenham have now made inquiries for Magnus Akliouche. I mean, I think we heard that a couple of days ago as well, when we knew the Eze deal had fumbled. But yeah, I do feel like with what we need, he should probably be next on the list.
Yeah, he should be high up, and that's another one that has been mooted by a lot of different journalists at Tottenham are very highly interested in him, and I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a quality player, but then apparently other clubs have gone in for him and been put off by the price tag because they're demanding too much. Are Tottenham going to feel the same way? Are they going to lower their fee? The problem is now, the big problem that we have is we're entering the final 10 days of the window. In some instances, yes, it's a lot of movement does happen in that time, but also when you're looking to sign team star players like an Akliouche, it can be tougher sometimes to get them out their club because they've not given them much time to replace them. Now you can still do it, but you might have to pay over the odds to make it worth their while to let him go, and we know we don't like doing that. But regardless of that, I think he's a quality player. I'd love him at Tottenham. I think he would be a good alternative to Eze. But yeah, I hope we stump up the money for him.
Yeah, I think after everything that's happened in this transfer window, it's clear what Spurs are looking for, right? A winger and a number 10 and potentially a centre-back from now to the end of the transfer window. And I think the club know, I think the manager knows, I think the fans know that if we don't bring in at least some of these targets, we're leaving ourselves very short going into the season with 4 competitions to contend for, one of those competitions being the Champions League. I think that they should be well aware now, with this little time left of the window, with all the deals that we've bungled so far this transfer window, they're going to have to pay over the odds. I don't see a situation how we're not going to have to pay over the odds, and surely they got to be prepared for that. They have to be.
Also, slightly worried me what Frank was saying in his press conference, and he was talking about our attacking options and how good a lot of them are. But he said, "I'm sure we'll get a player before the end of the window." I don't know. I know it's just like a throwaway comment, but I think that goes into his mindset of. Is it like he could have said, "Oh, maybe we'll get some transfers in before the end of the window," but he said a player. Now, it could have been a kind of subconscious thing where they might have to settle for just one more signing. I feel, and that kind of worried me. What he was saying. There was kind of an implication there that maybe we're only going to get one more in, and I'm kind of worried about that.
Look, we'll have to wait and see how things progress. I think not only Frank, not only you, but I think the whole of the Spurs fan base are worried about that fact. But they're not even just worried about one transfer, they're worried about not making any signings from now until the end of the transfer window. So, look, it's obviously a valid concern to have, but there's no point, making any predictions or any sweeping judgments until the end of the transfer window. Let's talk about Morgan Rogers once again, shall we? As Miguel Delaney says that Spurs have contacted intermediaries about Morgan Rogers, who is now a priority target. Villa don't want to sell, but there's a feeling an actual bid could change things amid PSR pressures. Contact ensures he would cost considerably more than Eze. Tottenham circles expect Morgan Rogers to cost around £80 million, but it may take even higher figure to make Aston Villa seriously consider his sale. Yeah. Look, I think in an ideal world, this guy is probably the most kind of, the best target that we could possibly think of. He's also going to be very expensive. I think you probably don't get him for 85 minimum. I don't think Spurs are going to go that high on anyone, but he is the ideal kind of target and candidate for the job. Yeah,
move on. It ain't happening. It's just, you might as well move on. We're not going to get anywhere near what they want. They've just sold Jacob Ramsey for 45 million to Newcastle. So in terms of PSR issues, that article was talking about, they're probably nowhere near as bad as they would have been a week ago. So I'm sure they're not in a position where they have to sell. Obviously, if they get 85 million, that gives them a bit of room to sign some players between now and the end of the window for some big money, but then you lose your best player. So it doesn't really help the situation. So this deal is not even a non-starter for me. It's just not happening. I don't even know if it's worth inquiring. We're not going to... I think the highest we'll probably go is 70 million. I just can't even see us going higher than that.
If you take this kind of report at face value and saying that Spurs are actually genuinely interested in Rodgers,
I'm sure we are,
and we're going as far to make an inquiry, but internally they think that he's going to cost a minimum of 80 million. Is that positive in terms of they have that figure in mind?
They might cost 80 million. Are they willing to go to 80 million? Look, in Tottenham's mind, are they thinking Villa are going to demand 80 million. That's the figure they have in their head of what Villa are going to demand. And Levy's going to try and negotiate him down to like 70 plus 10, and he's going to try and get, that's their thinking. Or they're thinking Villa are going to demand 100, but we're willing to spend 80. I think it's probably the former. They're probably thinking maybe Villa will demand 80 and we'll try and haggle them down, and that's not going to happen. That isn't going to be the case. They're going to be demanding more than that, and we're not even going to be looking to spend 80 million.
How much do you reckon he's worth in this market?
I think he's probably worth, in terms of just got Young Player of the Year, really young, big, long contract at a good club in European football. So he's probably worth 70 million, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I mean, I would agree. In the ballpark between 70 and 80, I would say. I really believe this guy is going to just keep getting better and better and better. I love watching him. Such an exciting player. Unfortunately, it's going to be for Aston Villa and no one else this summer.
There's not. I mean, we can inquire and we can be interested all we like, but it's never going to happen unless we do what Villa did, City did with Grealish, and go, you know what, you want 100 million, or you just stump up the money and really go big and just be comfortable with the fact that okay, we're probably paying about over the odds, but we're getting him in. That's the mentality we've got to do. We're never going to have that mentality.
That's
and
what
it's
a
never
serious
going
club
to
would do. That's what a serious club would do. And when you're looking at the failed attempts for Morgan Rogers and Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze, this guy should be of the same kind of caliber. And I know Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze were going to cost a bit less than what Rogers is going to command, but you're seeing the clear holes in the squad, and he would fill some of those holes. So in my opinion, you go out and spend that money on a Morgan Rogers. That's what you do. You go and test the waters. You go slap down 80 million and see what comes of it.
Test the waters with a very big bid where they'll make them think, we're just never going to do it. I know this club, we're never going to do that.
You know for certain the testing the waters bid for us would be like 45 million plus
exactly.
like 5 million in add-ons, don't you?
Yeah, well that's what it'll be, and then they'll slap that down, and they'll laugh us out the room, and that'll be that. Like, we're never going to get close to a fee for Rodgers that will make Villa think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Next up, we are going to talk about Yeremy Pino of Villarreal, as the Mail are reporting that Pino is on the radar from the likes of Tottenham, Bournemouth, Everton and Palace have also explored a move too. He's a player that's actually been linked with us for a good number of years now. He kind of came to the fore when a very young player. I think it was at the age of 19 when he made his Villarreal debut, maybe even younger. Last year, 4 goals, 7 assists for Villarreal, 30 million market value. Yeah. Could he be a kind of alternative for Savinho?
Yeah, because he's. I remember he was a winger. Didn't he have like an ACL?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because I remember he was very highly thought of, and then he had that bad injury. But it seems he's come back and done quite well last season, played a lot, and getting regular goals and assists. So that's really encouraging, and fair play to him. I'm delighted for him that he seems to have fully recovered from that serious injury, because you never know how players, especially even if they're young, how they're going to recover from such a serious injury. Sometimes they come back and they're never the same. But he seems to be back and doing quite well, so that's really encouraging. I think he's a good alternative to Savinho, potentially, as a really good winger. I really liked him before, obviously he got that really bad injury. I thought he was like on a really good trajectory, so I'd be very interested in him, but I think in a perfect world, maybe he probably wanted to see one more season. But it sounds like he had a decent season last season.
On the back of that season, he got called up to the Spain national team. He hadn't been called up since 2022. And now he's back in the Spain national team for the Nations League semi and final.
Okay, so that's really positive. I think he can also potentially play in the 10 as well. So I think he was really good, and he was on a really good trajectory before that injury, and seems to have recovered from it. So that also shows really good mentality to be able to do that, really strong mentally to be able to do that. So I think definitely I would be excited about him.
Yeah. Me as well. I think obviously I'd prefer Savinho. I'd prefer just like players that have played in the Premier League before, but he is a player that you can get behind. I think he's a player that you can get excited about. Let's talk about some current players to finish this off. Wilson Odobert, there's a link with him to Correa dello Sport. AS Roma are attempting to sign Wilson Odobert. Spurs want to start negotiations over his sale at 25 million euros. Roma could meet this price through a loan fee and an option to buy the player. And I'm thinking, we only just signed him for 25 million last summer. I don't think there's any chance that Spurs sanction a sale for 25 million. At the very most, I can see maybe a loan with a bit of a year of development for Roma, a really good Serie A side, and coming back into the fold next season with Spurs potentially looking to bring in another winger. But I think he'll be here. I don't think we're going to sell him or loan him.
Yeah, I think it's peculiar to think that we would. He had a pretty decent pre-season, started against Arsenal, and there's a lot of reports that Frank really is a big fan of his and has been impressed by him. So the thought of him letting him go for as little as 25 million when he hasn't even had a chance to play under him seems a bit far-fetched to me. However, you would say if we are signing a winger, we've been over it a number of times, haven't we, that the numbers don't really work unless someone's leaving. And that's on top of, players like Basuma. And obviously, we'll talk about Richarlison later, but at the beginning of the window, he was assumed he was leaving, and he was like in our out kind of column. And now he's not. So that's another option that isn't going to be out the door, it looks like. So who is leaving? That is to make, if we are going to sign a winger and a 10. That is obviously a good question. Now, logically, Odegaard would be the candidate, to be honest. So when you think about it that way, could there be some legs to it? But I think it would be harsh. I really want to see what Odegaard can do. I don't want to let him go just yet. I think, Frank seems to be a fan of his. So I don't really believe it. Roma just signed Leon Bailey as well. Maybe they're looking for another one. I don't know. But, I hope he doesn't leave for that much. But, in theory, there is a case for it.
Yeah. Just by the numbers.
Yeah.
100% there is a case for it. And
also, I was going to say, in his press conference, he was talking about the attacking options and he didn't mention Odegaard, which I thought, was that a mistake, or is there something about that? He mentioned all the other ones and he didn't mention Odegaard.
But he has mentioned before Odegaard and how much he likes him. He has. So, it is an interesting one. We've been having these conversations all summer about the wingers, haven't we? Mm-hmm. We've been having these conversations literally all summer. And I kind of said before the pre-season started, Odegaard could be the fall guy here. I think out of the wingers that we've got, Kudus aside, after Kudus, I think Odegaard probably had the strongest pre-season out of all of them, out of Brennan, Tell, and anyone else that we got on the wings. So I would be surprised if Odegaard was to leave from now to the end of the window. I don't think it's happening. I think this is just a bullshit story, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also not the best source anyway.
Next up, let's talk about Richarlison then. Some interesting comments made by Ange Postecoglou, by Thomas Frank in the press conference. Edu Burgos says that Richarlison will not leave Tottenham this summer. He wasn't offered to Crystal Palace as part of the Eze deal. Thomas Frank is counting on Pombo as part of the project this season. And it was very interesting to hear that Thomas Frank called him his starting number 9 in the press conference. How must Dom Solanke be feeling right now?
Well, at the end of the day, if the roles were reversed, it would be, people wouldn't be surprised. But because Richarlison started the summer as a player that a lot of people expected potentially leaving, and Solanke's expected to be the number 9, now all of a sudden, you can ask that question. But at the end of the day, he's playing well. Solanke was injured, right? And he taken his chance. He snatched it with both hands, and he's been phenomenal. So it's only fair that he has the shirt. You wouldn't expect that of any other position. So regardless of what Solanke's feelings are, at the end of the day, Solanke's benefited himself from a similar situation when Richarlison's been injured and he's come in and done well. So I think Richarlison deserves it, and fair play to him. Fair play to Frank for basically confirming it, giving Richarlison that confidence. That's probably a massive confidence boost for him, because there's always that fear, isn't it? However well Richarlison's doing right now, there is probably that fear at the back of his mind. Once Solanke's fully fit, does he just come straight back in, given his big money signing? And I know some people weren't too happy with him last season, but he did all right. I think the club were probably happy with him in general. So a lot of people obviously expected Solanke to be the number 9 this season, but I think Richarlison deserves it. But at the end of the day, he only deserves it until he doesn't. You know what I mean? So if he drops his performance level, Solanke's ready and waiting. So it's on Richarlison to make sure he doesn't lose his spot. Yeah. But fair play to Rishi. And I think that from those quotes probably put to bed any lingering doubts of whether he was going to be leaving or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would go as far to say these two performances from Richarlison against Burnley and against PSG in the Super Cup are the best number 9 performances we've seen in a very long time, probably since Harry Kane was at the club. Like a pure number 9 performance, you know, hold up play, link up play, goals, finishing ability, take-ons, you know, like everything that you want to see your number 9 do. I think Richarlison has shown examples of that in the last 2 games. And I think, I genuinely believe that these 2 performances, we haven't seen that level of number 9 performance since Harry Kane.
Yeah, and I really do think Solanke's got a job on his hands if Richarlison keeps up this kind of form, because even when you look at the hold-up play, which is obviously what Solanke's known for, the thing is I feel with Solanke is a lot of the time he's very good at trapping the ball, holding it up. Sometimes I feel like he takes too long to release it, and sometimes he doesn't release it to the right person as well. And it can sometimes lead to moves breaking down, and that can be quite frustrating. Whereas what I've seen with Richarlison is he doesn't just win the ball, gets it quickly to a teammate, and make sure that we're doing it quickly, so that move gets maintained, and we actually have an attack. Whereas sometimes with Solanke, he can slow things down, and obviously we know when he's in the box, Solanke, he takes way too long to get his shots off. You saw with Richarlison, it just needs one touch finish and bam, it's in the back of the net. He's very quick to get those shots off, and and that can be a difference.
Yeah, it's also important to note that, I mean, it is only 2 games performing at this level, and there is obviously the big grey cloud over Richarlison is whether he can stay fit. That's the main thing with Richarlison. If he can stay fit, I have no doubt that he'll be a brilliant player for us this season. And your prediction of him being, you know, top goal scorer this season will probably come true. But that, you know, the jury's heavily out on that one.
Yeah, and I think Frank knows that. You know, he said it. He's been quite clear. He said Richarlison is not out the woods yet when it comes to his injury problems. They've got to be very careful with him. So I don't think you can count your chickens yet when it comes to being confident, or pigeons when it comes to Richarlison keeping fit. I completely agree with that. But if he can stay fit, I generally think those 2 striker options, Solanke and Richarlison, they're both fit. Those are 2 good options. I know they're not both the best striker in the league. You know, you can probably look at a lot of the other teams ahead of us and think, yes, they've got a better starting number 9 than us. But do they have a backup, and do they have 2 strikers collectively as good as those 2? I think those 2 can both score goals, both do good hold-up play, and I think both 2 good Premier League strikers. They can both get each, you know, 15 goals. I'm not saying maybe Premier League goals, but in all competitions, at least 15 to 20. I think they can both be doing that. So I think I don't think we have to worry about their number 9 this season if they can both stay fit.
And last but not least, another player that was mentioned in the press conference today was Dejan Kulusevski. So earlier last night, David Heitner gave us an update, and he said that Kulusevski is expected to be out until the turn of the year, which is gutting news. If he is out to the turn of the year, when's he actually going to be fully fit? Is it going to take him a good few months after that? And Thomas Frank did say in the press conference today that he doesn't want to put a time frame on it, but it's going to be a long time. Yeah,
and that's the unfortunate reality with Kulusevski, this injury. We spoke about it a number of times when we heard about it. You know, Decky was saying he's targeting September, and, you know, when I read up about this injury, I'm like, that sounds optimistic to me. You know, this injury, when you look up on the recovery times, a lot of them say just to get back playing 5 to 8 months, and then full recovery can take up to 12 months potentially to get back to your best. It's a really serious injury. So I think for me, I'm not expecting him probably, look, he might get back playing in like December time or something. I'm not expecting to see the Decky we saw at the back end of last season, potentially even until the next season. That, you know, these injuries, you got to be patient with them, and it's going to be difficult because it's very frustrating, the situation. He got injured in when was it, April, or no, that Palace game was just before the final, wasn't it? And it was just after he just came back from an injury, after he was, you know, having such a great time of it at the beginning of last season. So I think we've all been waiting to see that Decky again, and I think the frustration is it might be a lot more time before we see that. So it's a massive shame. But yeah, I know there was reports, you know, a few weeks ago saying he's going to miss the first month of the season. A lot of fans were getting a bit excited about it. I'm like, It says he's going to miss it. It doesn't say he's going to be back after a month. Like, I think, we're not going to be seeing him at his fully best for a while. So this season could even be a bit of a write-off for Decky. Although Frank does say today he's going to come back this season. So maybe he's confident we'll see a good version of Decky at some point this season. But I wouldn't bank on it, Yeah.
I think
you got to plan without it.
100%. And he's one that can be left out the Champions League squad from the off for the group stages. And,
For the group stage, yeah.
And hopefully reintegrate him for the knockout rounds. Madison's obviously going to be out for the group stages, so you're already seeing that, a potential way to get to to fit everyone in. With Basuma potentially leaving, we don't know what's happening with Vuskovic. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is Kota Takai? Is he going to be part of the Champions League squad? So there are opportunities to add players into that for the group stages at least.
Yeah, at least. But then obviously once the knockouts come, and if Decky's back, got to have a decision to make. Yeah. But
you look at that with Kulusevski out until at least January, Madison out for pretty much the whole season. We need 2 number 10s. Never mind just one. Like, I think it's desperate for 2.
2 10s and a winger and a defender.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, that's what we would do. But I honestly think we're only going to get one more signing.
Unless, I guess if you can bring in a winger that can play wing and 10.
Yeah.
You can bring in a number 10 and a number 10 plus a winger that can play 10 as well, or the other way around.
Yeah, and then it gives you a bit more flexibility. I don't see us signing 2 10s. I think at the very best, we'll get a winger and a number 10, or one of those wingers that can play 10, like an Akliouche, like a winger who can play 10 or 10 who can play wing kind of player. I don't think we're going to sign 2 pure number 10s. I think that's just a bit far-fetched.
It's far-fetched, but it's what we need. It's always what we need that's far-fetched.
Yeah.
Which is the frustrating.
But then all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself in a squad with 4 number 10s, like in a few months' time.
Well, not in a few months, probably in next season.
Still.
Yeah. Well, then, next season, next summer, there's some difficult decisions to make, We'll have 2. Well, look, we're not signing 4, so we're not signing 2. So it's probably just a stupid conversation. So I guess we can just probably move on from that, and let's just hope and pray we can bring in at least 1. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we've brought to you today. How many players do you think that Spurs are going to bring in from now until the 1st of September? Really not long to go. We're sitting here the 22nd of August. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section.